what's the value of art today? Are we thinking about Russian oligarchs purchasing old masters for their London homes, or status symbol impressionist paintings? Is it artists like Damien Hirst creating works which sell for seven-figure sums and perhaps just reflect that he's a really good marketeer? But is there a much simpler value for art? Is it more about that experience when you get up from your desk, you leave the office, you leave the laptop behind, and you wander into a building which is full of beautiful things, a safe space, a calm space, and you spend a little time, 15, 20 minutes, just looking at those things, immersing yourself in that physical experience of looking at something that's been created for your pleasure. And then you walk away from the gallery, and rather than taking an aspirin for that headache that was coming on before you left, you feel uplifted. Your spirit is refreshed. You feel better, and that sense of well-being encompasses you. So what do we mean by well-being? We've already had well-being referred to earlier this morning. It's a really complex cocktail of a number of different elements. It's social well-being, it's emotional well-being, mental well-being, and of course, physical aspects. If any of that cocktail gets out of balance, if one of those elements is missing, then we're ill. We feel unwell. We visit the doctor, we enter the health system. So maintaining that balance is really, really important. And where art is valuable is in those emotional, social, mental elements of well-being. It can do so much, it can make such a great contribution. And I would suggest that today we're living in a period when the health service in this country is in perhaps a greater crisis than since it was first created. So we need everything we can get. We need all the tools to help the health service in dealing with the crisis. 1 in 4 of us will experience mental illness in our lifetime. 1 in 5 older people experience depression. By the year 2025, 1 million people in the UK will have dementia. And of course, 2/3 of those people will still be living in their homes, cared for by family members. So when you think of that impact it's having on family life, on carers, we are building up an enormous problem. So how can art help? Isn't art just about people who know about these things, who can appreciate the complexity of different periods of art, who know about art history? I would say no. Actually, you don't have to know anything, because it is just about that opportunity to engage with lovely things and actually to engage your own creativity, which is inside us all, even though perhaps we don't understand and appreciate it. It's there. So what am I thinking about? Because obviously I'm not thinking about art galleries becoming overflow A&E departments. I'm not thinking about artists becoming part-time paramedics. It's much more subtle than that. There's a whole range of activity in which arts can help, can become involved. Something very simple. 25 years ago, Great Ormond Street Hospital realised that an institutional building is terrifying for small children. So they began to put art on the walls. They painted everything bright colours. They introduced all kinds of interactive things into hospital wards. And it worked. That spread, probably there are very few of us who haven't gone into a doctor's surgery and seen art on the walls, gone into a care home and seen, again, art on the walls. Hospitals have become very, very good at it. So that's something very practical and something that's now well established. But less well known is the ability for people with mental health issues to, rather than be on a regime of pills, to go out and to interface with arts activity, to go to a gallery, to participate in an art workshop, to join a theatre production, to join even a writing group where they can write down what's actually going on in their heads. The chance for carers to get out of that isolation of being stuck inside with the person they're caring for, to come out into the community and to join social situations around creative practice. The opportunity for those who are trying to work out what's going on with all these illnesses, to use arts as a way of interfacing with patients, to find out more. Are there specific projects I can talk about? There are so many brilliant things happening. A project called Art on Prescription running throughout Gloucestershire, where instead of taking the prescription for your Prozac, you can actually say, I want to sign up to an arts activity. And it's all free. You can go to the theatre, you can go to the cinema, you can join a choir, or you can go into a gallery and do art. A programme called Clown Doctors running in London hospitals, where when young children come into the hospital ward, they're met by a clown rather than a doctor, and the clown will teach them some basic clowning skills and then help them to come into the ward and join all the other patients. So much less frightening. A programme run by the English National Ballet called Ballet and Parkinson's, which is where people with Parkinson's disease talk to the dancers about how their body is feeling, and the dancers turn that into a dance. And it helps researchers trying to find out what's happening with Parkinson's disease, to understand what's happening in the minds of those people. Here in Woking, a couple of really interesting programmes. Art in Mind being run over at the Lightbox, where people with early stage dementia and their carers meet regularly at the Lightbox. They have a cup of tea, they have cake, they talk, and almost as a byproduct, they draw, they paint, they work in clay. And it's really bringing them out of that isolated situation. I hope you'll indulge me by letting me just read a quote, because I want to get it right. It's by one of the carers, and she wrote to me last week. Although Mum's dementia has robbed some of her initiative to socially interact, I could see and hear how the Art in Mind session provides an invaluable social opportunity for the participants and their carers. And a programme called Art and Craft for Wellbeing, where artists and volunteers go into the 2 hospices in this area and take art and craft activity. So people in the hospice can make something. They can make a card to send friends or family. They can draw, they can create things. And it really gives a useful purpose in what is sometimes a very negative environment. But is what I'm talking about maybe just a way of alleviating boredom? If you look at it cynically, a lot of these activities are just bringing people into social settings to do something, rather than sitting at home thinking about how bad life is and looking at the 4 walls. I think it is, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that is a really useful way of alleviating some of these issues. But we have now got much better at researching the impact and the outcomes of these art activities, and really looking at it in a much more scientific way. And the results have really been quite astounding. Studies have recently been done in hospitals looking at patients who've had access to arts activity. And the amount of time they've actually been in hospital has been shortened because of the interface with art activity. Quite stunning results with mental health patients. The amount of prescribed drugs that have been supplied for patients who have been interfacing with art and creative activity, even if that's just being taken to a gallery to look round and to interface with beautiful things. A marked decline in the amount of prescribed drugs. What's it doing for carers? Well, it's really helping to support carers so as they are able to go on caring for longer, rather than realizing that actually that loved person is going to have to move into an institution because they can't put up with the isolation and the stress any longer. They're coming together in social settings. And there are now very, very good research results about the duration of caring and how it helps to bring people together. And with health practitioners and researchers, a much improved understanding of the conditions and understanding of those people suffering from Parkinson's disease who are so much more able to describe how it is they're feeling and the decline that they're seeing in their physical condition. So we've got the results, and what really should we be doing with it? The problem is we're not all lucky enough to live in Gloucestershire and have art on prescription. The availability of this kind of treatment, because it does need financial support, the availability is very patchy over the country. Getting it out to GPs to understand that actually this is something they can do. We need to spread the word. We need to get people involved. Because we collectively as taxpayers are spending millions on people who are unwell. Perhaps we ought to be thinking about spending more on alleviating the illness and adding something into the mix that's different, innovative, but actually, I believe, really works. Thank you.